Clark County Today is presented by Cano Real Estate. Hire an agent, get a team. Learn more by visiting canorealestate.com.
Hey everyone, happy Friday to all of you. I'm Chris Brown. The COVID-19 outbreak connected to the Firestone Pacific Foods plant in Vancouver appears to be slowing down. Today, just 3 new cases were confirmed countywide, and just one of those was linked to the fruit packing facility. There have been 76 employees who've tested positive, 70 of which live in Clark County. 44 close contacts of those employees have also tested positive. Out of 139 tests, 171 employees have been tested so far. The company did not reopen this week as they had hoped to, but has been allowed to install some safety upgrades in preparation for reopening. Now, Clark County's total number of confirmed COVID cases is at 551, with 25 fatalities and 6 people hospitalized. Only 8 cases not linked to Firestone have been discovered since late last Friday. Now, the county has sent a letter to the State Department of Health in hopes of getting their variants to move to phase 2 approved if the state determines the Firestone outbreak has been sufficiently dealt with. Now, obviously, if anything breaks on that front over the weekend, we will have an update at clarkcountytoday.com. On Wednesday, Governor Jay Inslee announced that he was relaxing restrictions on churches across the state for counties in Phase 1, such as Clark County. That included outdoor services of up to 100 people with social distancing and face masks. In Phase 2, indoor services at 25% capacity would be allowed up to 50 people, also with masks and space between seats. In his Wednesday news briefing, Inslee said that he relaxed his restrictions on religious gatherings because religion is constitutionally protected. And you might remember we recently shared with you a story on a Vancouver pastor's proposal to Inslee, which essentially asked the governor to treat religious gatherings similar to restaurants and movie theaters. Northwest Gospel Church pastor Andrew Murch says he believes Washington State still has the most restrictive faith gathering guidelines in the nation. Murch also offered some insight into what may have contributed to the governor's decision to make the modest changes in his restrictions on religious gatherings. To read all of the pastor's thoughts, check out our story at clarkcountytoday.com. Well, Clark County residents looking for a spot to cool off during the recent sunny weather have gotten some good news this morning when the city of Washougal announced the Sandy Swimming Hole Park has been reopened. The park had been closed since mid-April. The city is urging people to be considerate and practice proper physical distancing, plus avoid parking in surrounding neighborhoods. Citations will be issued to anyone who parks on Shepherd Road to use the park. And just a heads up, all park restrooms in the city will remain closed until further notice. The city is working on enhanced sanitation protocols to allow restrooms to reopen. Play structures and Steamboat Landing Dock also remain closed until further notice. Also new this afternoon, the Clark County Sheriff's Office says they have completed their investigation into the April 28th officer-involved shooting of William Abe. The 50-year-old was shot by 3 Vancouver police officers during an altercation at Stapleton Road and 4th Plain Boulevard, a shooting that was captured on camera. Abe reportedly knocked another man unconscious in a fight before police arrived, then proceeded to refuse orders to drop a sharpened metal rod he was holding, also throwing rocks at officers. The case has now been handed over to the county prosecuting attorney's office to determine if the officers were justified in using lethal force. Well, Clark County restaurants are in pins and needles, hoping they can get word soon that the county can move to phase 2 of reopening, which would allow them to restart dine-in service at half capacity. But the sudden pause last weekend left some restaurants in limbo, having recalled furloughed employees and restocked fridges. They now wonder when they'll actually be able to reopen, and a growing number of restaurants worry that half capacity would be too little to turn a profit, so they may choose to remain closed until phase 3, which wouldn't happen until late June at the earliest. Well, one idea being explored in downtown Vancouver to help restaurants in phase 2 are parklets, allowing some street parking sites to be converted into outside dining areas. The plan, which was approved via emergency ordinance today, will be considered by the full city council next Monday. And the city believes it will allow restaurants to serve more customers during phase 2, as well as presenting a potential draw for patrons to try out something new downtown. One business that is back open is A. The casino near Ridgefield had a soft opening earlier this week for VIPs only, but welcomed all customers back on Thursday. To protect employees and customers alike, masks will be required inside the building. People will also be scanned by a thermal imager when they enter to check if they have a fever. Some machines have been turned off and seats removed to encourage social distancing. There are also numerous sanitization areas throughout the gaming floor, as well as plexiglass shields at many of the gaming tables. Cards will also be switched out and sanitized more frequently. To read more about the steps ALNA is taking, check out Paul Valencia's story at clarkcountytoday.com. Late last January, staff members with area homeless outreaches, along with city officials, volunteers, and a couple of us from Clark County Today headed out to take the annual point-in-time census of the local homeless population. This year's survey found a slight drop in overall homeless, but a rise in people living unsheltered, along with an increase in younger people living on the streets of Vancouver and other Clark County communities. The point-in-time count is widely considered to be an undercount of the total homeless population, but it's used to determine trends and see whether strategies for homeless outreach, affordable housing, and shelter beds are being effective. The Council for the Homeless is hosting a virtual forum to share more details about the count. That's happening next Wednesday, and you can find out how to attend on our website. And Share Vancouver will be hosting their own virtual event on Tuesday of next week. It's their annual Volunteer Appreciation Night. The webinar event is open to the public and will be used to boost donations to Share's food drives, as well as volunteer signups for working at their warehouse. The event is typically held every year and is a large fundraising gathering, but due to COVID-19, will be hosted in an online format. A panelist of 5 community members and experts will join the event with 2 moderators from Share. Registration is required. Space is somewhat limited. Find out more in our story at clarkcountytoday.com. The city of La Center is doing well despite the economic impact of the ongoing stay-at-home order and the continued decline of its card rooms. With just 2 card rooms still in business, the city has been seeing gambling tax revenue drop by more than half since last year. But residential and commercial growth has helped offset those losses, at least for now. You can read more details about how the city is coping with this rapidly changing economy by visiting clarkcountytoday.com and reading our in-depth story. If you haven't heard of The Governors yet, you likely soon will. The musical group, with many of its members based right here in Clark County, will soon launch their first album, but they're making a name for themselves before then through the way they're dealing with the challenges of COVID-19 and quarantine. Here's Jacob Granneman with the story.
Thanks, Chris. The Governors are, for sure, a very unique band. They actually kind of all came together when they started going to Boise State University in Idaho, but many of the band members are actually from right here in Clark County out of Battleground and went to high school together. It was kind of a running joke for a long time that they would start a band, and in September of last year, they finally did. The 6 band members came together, and they've changed a couple roles since then, but they have increased their success. They actually began recording music last year. They did their first demo album. And then this year, they really started to ramp up. And as we all know, all that kind of came to a grinding halt with the pandemic. Actually, the week after their very first performance on stage in front of a live audience is when things began to shut down. Now, they are not letting that stop them, though. They actually were able to come together and do one of their original songs on a Zoom call kind of format. And at the end of the song, they included dozens of other people singing along with them to the chorus. The song is called It Only Gets Better, and it definitely fits the times that we are in. So if you'd like to learn more about what they're doing and what they're up to, which is new music, first single will be coming out next week, visit clarkcountytoday.com to read the full story with our feature article on all the band members and their message to folks right now as musicians during this time. So check it out.
All right, thanks for that, Jacob, and good luck, Governors. Oh, last but certainly not least, this Friday is Paul Valencia with a report about the Southwest Washington All-Star Baseball doubleheader, which, like so many other things, is canceled this year. But it's not just the game that will be missed, as we hear from Paul.
Good evening. Tonight I'd like to share with you the story of U.S. Army Corporal Jeremiah Jewel Johnson. Jeremiah graduated from high school in 2001, a Prairie Falcon. I never watched him play baseball. It was a few months later when I started covering high school sports in Clark County. But through the years, I've got to know him through a scholarship in his name, a memorial scholarship in his name. Corporal Johnson died in Iraq in 2007. Since then, his parents, David and Beth, have been going to the Southwest Washington All-Star Baseball Series and giving out a scholarship and the MVP plaques to the 2 MVPs of those games. The scholarship is also sponsored by the Evergreen Baseball Umpires Association. I'd like to thank them as well. It's not the actual baseball, it's the giving away of the MVP trophy. I've covered so many sporting events where MVPs are named or trophies are been given, and in all of those things, they're special, but they're just sports trophies. But at this event, every year, the trophy, it's a plaque with Jeremiah's picture in his Army uniform. And it's really touching when the players, they just finished a baseball game, they played well, they're named MVP, it's a special moment, but they also look down at that plaque and they know that it's one of their own, a former baseball player in Clark County. And it's just one of the highlights of the year. And unfortunately, it's just another one of the things that is going to be canceled this year because of our reaction to the pandemic. I just want to give a salute to the Johnson family 2 days after Memorial Day. And thank you, Jeremiah, for your service and your sacrifice.
All right, thanks for that report, Paul. And there is your quick check of the stories we're following for you at clarkcountytoday.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to see when stories are posted and be part of the conversation. You can also send us story ideas and feedback via email, news@clarkcountytoday.com. For all of us, I'm Chris Brown. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.